I'm Bonnie. Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter, where we take the mystery out of the tarot and help you bring this ancient practice into everyday life. In this podcast, we'll talk about life, tarot, and everything in between. So grab your tarot deck, get comfortable, and start your journey to tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. I'm Bonnie, and today Peter and I are going to continue our conversation with the Major Arcana. So in our last episode, we randomly picked two Major Arcana cards, and we sort of pretended that we were having dinner with them. So we sort of did interview style and answered each other's questions as if we were the Major Arcana. And we think that's a really fun and playful way to get to know the cards, to think about, what they might say in that situation. So we're going to do that again today. So, hi, Peter. How are you, by the way?
Good. What are we having for dinner, I guess, is, we never talk about that.
I guess we'll have to ask our cards, right? That's always fun, too, to think about, what would the restaurant look like? What kind of food would we be eating? So all of these ideas are really great ways to get to know the archetype and to really help you sort of expand your knowledge about what that card might be about for you. So we love this. We hope you love it too. And I guess we'll shuffle our cards and then so what we're going to do is last week we picked the Chariot and the Hanged Man. So we've taken those two cards out of our deck and we're going to now randomly pick a card each.
Yes, I have. I was going to say, yep, they're out now. I'm still using the Ethereal Visions Tarot by Matt Hughes. So,
okay.
Yeah, I've got those cards out, and I'm gonna shuffle them. And it was funny because I was reflecting on the last episode, and I think a couple of comments that were showing up either on YouTube or on Spotify, and a lot of practitioners talk about the importance of building a relationship with the cards themselves, and I think this is a great way to be able to do that, right? It's if we treat them a little bit like people or like individuals, then we're building a relationship with the cards, two at a time, so that little bite-sized chunks.
Yep.
Pardon the pun there, since we're talking about dinner, but
yes. And actually, it's funny. My friend Naomi, who we had on our show a few episodes back, Naomi Simpson, she sent me an email and she's like, I think the Chariot would be like a great thing for the Chariot to collect would be race horses. And I'm like, oh my God, of course.
Right? Of course.
And she loves horses. She has horses on her farm. And I thought, look at that perspective. Yeah. And it's so obvious because there's usually horses in the Chariot card. So
no, that's fantastic. And same, for anybody, if you're listening, if there's something, I think we've kept the questions relatively consistent for this episode as well. We might change them at some point. But if you can think of something to add, it not only does it help you solidify what the cards mean for you, but it adds to everybody else's interpretation bag. Somebody can kind of say, wow, great. Yeah, they would collect horses. They'd be a breeder of some kind. That's some brilliant suggestions. So please, keep them coming if you have them. We would love to hear from you. So I'm just shuffling, and which reminds me, and I see the keyboards in the background, I still have to work on shuffling music. Although I have actually started, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last episode, I have started creating some shuffle music. The challenge, of course, is that, you got to sort of hit that shuffle motif in 5 seconds or less. So that's going to be my challenge as a musician. All right. Who's coming to dinner? Who's coming to dinner? So I'm using Tarot of Mystical Moments by Katrine Welch-Stein. I love this deck. Okay. So that's what I'm going to use today. I have my card. Do you have your card, Peter? I do have my card. What happens if we draw the same card?
I know. I thought about that this morning. Are we going to, I guess we could change it. One of us could surrender and be like, I'll pick another card.
Fair enough.
Okay. What did you pick?
I picked Temperance.
Oh, I have
Temperance.
I picked the World.
The World. Okay. Excellent. And cards 14 and 21 as well. If you were looking at the Major Arcana in that 7 card group of cards 1 to 7, 8 to 14 and 15 to 21. You've got both cards that would sit there in that column, and the Chariot would be the other card. And we had the Chariot last week. So
Yeah.
there you go. All right. So, and this is a beautiful, like, I selected this card, the deck, because I really like the personification, like how the cards are represented. I think they're actually, it's a beautiful deck. This is the Luna edition of the Ethereal Visions Tarot by Matt Hughes. And all the silvers and stuff, it really does make it sort of aesthetically appealing. So even the tower is somebody you'd want to have, around the table, because, the tower kind of looks like they'd be, dressed for dinner. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So anyways, yeah,
That
so
is a beautiful deck. I'll have to pull mine out because I own that one as well. And I think I own that because you were talking about it sometime. And then of course I had to go and buy it. So
my fault. Yeah, my fault.
yes.
All right.
Your fault, Peter. Okay. Should we get started?
Yes, let's.
Okay. I'll ask you. Do you want me to ask you first?
Sure.
Okay. So if you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
Okay. Well, I'm definitely looking for something that balances, I guess, a good time with relaxation. I want options, right? I definitely want options because, I am temperance. I enjoy a nice glass of wine, but I don't want to drink 3 bottles. So I'm probably traveling to Paris, actually. If I'm temperance, I'm going to go to the City of Light. However, it is also in some ways a city that never sleeps. So there's an interesting balance between the two. I think it's also a great city where you can have both. You can have that beautiful city buzz. But for anybody who's gone to Paris in any of the arrondissements, so it's kind of set up like 20 different districts that sort of encircle itself around the main district, there are parks and open spaces everywhere. As far as moderation goes, there are all kinds of opportunity for moderation in food, in drink, in experience. So yeah, if I'm temperance, I think the City of Lights. I think Paris is where I'm heading.
I love that. Ooh, Temperance in Paris.
Right? Yeah.
Well, that could be the name of a book or the name of a movie.
Or a movie, right? That's it. I was just thinking, right? Could be exactly that. So,
oh, yeah, I love that.
Now
I want to go to Paris.
I'm almost hesitating to ask the world if you could travel anywhere in the world. If you could travel anywhere in you right now, where would you go?
I know, right? I'm like, ooh, the world. This one's going to be tough. But as the world, if I could go anywhere, I would go on a cruise. A worldwide cruise, right? So we think about the world card, we think about beginning and completion, right? And you literally have the world in your hands, and because the world is, at the end of that fool's journey, if we want to call that, with the tarot and the majors, it's like you've traveled through this entire journey, and now you're at a point where you can really celebrate. And a cruise, I think, is a really great way to maybe experience the world card, because you're going to go to different places, you're going to have different experiences. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but you get to see so much, and then it comes back again, right? So if we start at one point and then we go all around the world, we're going to come back where we left off, and then we're ready to start all over again. So I don't know if that's a bit of a cop-out or not, but I think from the world's perspective, hey, you can go anywhere. Let's do it all, and let's do it on a cruise.
It's funny when you talk about that idea of that cycle with the world. It actually reminded me of a discussion that we had with Janine when way back in season 1, our first guest. And I don't know if you remember, with her In Between Tarot, it really highlighted that cycle of the world that was kind of around the fire, and then the Fool character was also there. That whole idea of going back to where you started. I love that. I love that image of, I love that image for the world card and travel. That's great. Okay.
Yeah. Let's go on a cruise.
All right. Yep.
And then we'll hit Paris on our way.
You'd have to head down the river a little bit, but for sure. Right. Yeah. That'd be great. All right. I'll ask you the second question then. You ready, or?
I'm ready, but I don't know what I'm going to say. Okay.
I know this one's hard because obviously, people can see that we're shuffling our cards and randomly selecting a major arcana card. So it really is putting Bonnie and I on our toes to think about things like, the next question. Do you have a favorite book or movie you could recommend to everyone?
Okay. I'm going to take my own advice and be like, just say the first thing that popped into your head, Bonnie, because that's okay. So I'm going to say the movie. Okay. I hope I don't mess up the name of this. Is it, is it Benjamin Button or is there something before
Oh,
that?
is it the something Life of Benjamin Button?
The Life of Benjamin Button?
Something Life of Ben. I think there's something there, The Wonderful Life or something Life of Benjamin Button.
Yeah. So
Book
in
and
this movie, Brad Pitt is in this movie and it kind of goes backwards. So it's like he was born as an old man and then he slowly through life progresses back down to a baby. So we really see this idea of a beginning and a completion, but it's the opposite, right? So I was trying to think of something that would encompass like the world, but I sort of thought about it as something that starts and then something that ends. So we see the life of this man who turns back into a boy, and we see all of, what he goes through in his life, what it's like to be an old man, and then what it's like, because then he has a partner in the movie, and then it's like the partner is now caring for him as a baby at the end of his life when he's a baby. So I'm going to recommend, I got to find out the name of the movie exactly, but it's something Benjamin Button, The Life of Benjamin Button or The Adventures of Benjamin Button, something like that.
Yeah. And it's a book as well. And I can't remember who the author is, but I think it started out as a book. But you're right. I think it's The Something and of Benjamin Button. That's a great idea. That again, that whole idea of going back to the beginning. I always think of that one because I think it was one of the first movies where kind of that CGI, because, you look at Brad Pitt, the actor, as he's getting younger, and you can kind of notice as they sort of filter out some of the lines, because I think the movie itself is probably 20 years old or so. And, I think Brad Pitt would have been likely in his late 30s, early 40s. But, as they start going, he goes back, I think, at one point, and he's in his early 20s or even his late teens. And you can see the filters that are in there that have softened all the lines on his face. And I remember noticing that because my wife is a huge Brad Pitt fan.
Oh, so she would know the name of this movie like 100%.
She would easily know.
Cool.
Right.
Okay, so Temperance, do you have a favorite book or a movie that you would recommend to everyone?
I do. The book title came to me right away, and then I could remember the first name of the author, and then I couldn't remember the last name. So I was very quickly just typing in the title of the book so I could get it while you were talking. So my apologies if I looked distracted. I was like, oh, I know it. It would be The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I thought, that idea of, well, one, it's almost a quintessential book of that quest as well. But even just the title, The Alchemist, really does focus on a couple of concepts, that idea of balance, but really that idea of creating something out of nothing, or creating something new, something more glorious out of something that is less so. It makes me think of the quote from, and I'm going to botch it, from Leonard Cohen, that talks about, where the light coming, the holes in, in the vessel are where the light comes in, that it's actually through the cracks in that we let the light come through. If somebody knows the exact quote, I'm hoping I'm describing it well enough, but it's the idea that, it's through our faults that our trueness shines through. And I really do think that both Temperance and the concept of the general concept of the book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, highlight that. So that would be, I think that's where I would go. I'd recommend a book.
That is
I think
brilliant.
with the last one, I recommended a movie. So this time I recommended a book. It's one of those books too, because I belong to a men's book club. And it's one of those books that always shows up in a recommendation to be able to read, because it's also one of those almost soul-searching books too that you really want to dig into. It's a short read, but it's a profound one. So
it's a classic. And alchemy, right? Like we think about alchemy with the Temperance card. So what a perfect marriage, Peter.
And it's the card of alchemy. Right? It's the card of alchemy.
Yeah, exactly. I think the movie is called The Curious Case of Benjamin
There you
Button.
go. That's
I
it.
think. I think.
No, I think you're
But
right.
anyway,
I think you're right. If only we had a tool at our disposal where we could
I
go
know
and
I don't
find
want to
out,
be
right?
distracted
I
and
know
look at my phone.
I'm the same. I felt really bad about going to take a look and and popping up my popping up Safari and typing in the question, but I thought no, I want to get the author down. So I actually think you're right. I think it's The Curious Life of Benjamin Button.
Or yeah, or The Curious Case or
Case,
something.
something like that. But yeah,
Something like
curious life.
that.
Ah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah,
Somebody will help us out.
after this, we'll be like, this is the name of it.
All right. So when you think about, we've had that idea of, of start to finish, the idea of the journey with the world card. We've had the idea of alchemy, the idea of balance, the idea of, of moderation with temperance. And I'm hoping people are starting to get a sense now as to what we mean by getting to know the cards and building the relationship with the cards through some of these questions. So hopefully, after an episode and a half, you're getting a sense as to where we're going. So
Yes.
speaking of which, we probably should get to the next question. So,
Get to the next question. Okay.
uh,
Do you want me to ask you?
yep, sure, go ahead.
Okay. What's your go-to comfort food?
Now, this one, nothing is coming to mind right now, but
Do you want me to answer first?
no, because I think that the idea is to try and think about, okay, so if I'm temperance, and I'm thinking about the idea of, of comfort food, I'm again, right? I'm trying to think, well, I'm not going to go too junky. I'm not going to go too healthy. I'm going to try and find something that's probably a staple. So I'm going to go with a good, I'm going to go with a burger. I'm going to go with burger and salad as opposed to burger
Mm.
and fries. I'm going to go with burger and salad. To me, a hamburger, I often think actually, when Kelly and I, when we're not interested in cooking whatsoever, which doesn't happen very often, because of my schedule, I do the cooking of 5 days a week. I'm on cooking. Kel does too. But there are times when it's like, either we both had a busy day and I haven't been able to squeeze cooking in, or we just look at each other and say, look, I'm not interested. Our comfort is often a local restaurant here who does an amazing burger. And we will call up. And it's often enough that we call up to the point that, Brett, the person who owns the restaurant, is like, oh, okay. And she knows exactly what we want. And then we walk, and it's a dining restaurant, but they'll do a little bit of takeout and we go and grab. That's what we grab. That's comfort food. So I think temperance is also enjoying the comfort food of a burger, but is having a side of salad, because temperance is recognizing that is going to balance out what likely is the indulgence of a kind of juicy, meaty hamburger. And if temperance is vegan, then she's having a meat substitute, but she's still going for the burger, whether that's a nice portobello mushroom cap as the patty, or whether it's a veg-based patty. She's going burger for comfort.
I love that. I was thinking burger too when you were thinking. I'm like, oh, burger. I was also thinking
Yeah.
chocolate, because we have to temper chocolate. So if we think about
Yes.
temperance,
Temper. Yeah.
right? It's like,
Mhm.
blending, and it has to be just the right amount. So if you think of like a truffle with a nice not
I
crispy,
love
but
that.
like a something that you can bite into that kind of has that crack. It's like tempered chocolate. So
Yeah.
maybe you could have a little dark chocolate truffle at the end of your burger meal.
Well, there you go. And it has, with that idea of tempering something, it has to be heated as well and then cooled, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Which is the act. And thank you for that reminder, because that will be another concept, the concept of to temper, the three meanings of temper, will now help me as I answer my questions moving forward. So
I just had to talk about chocolate because chocolate is such a big part of my life. And I'm like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity.
it's the ultimate, like in the end, right? It's the ultimate comfort food. I know when we were living in Belgium, like the woman who the brand of chocolate we would often go to his new house. So we had a store within walking distance, and the woman knew us by name, like by first name. We would go in there so often. We would often ship it home for kids and friends here, but we would also indulge ourselves. It is the ultimate comfort food. I would agree. So chocolate is a good choice, and I think I might I might change my answer and do chocolate and then burger. But
No,
anyways,
no, no, no. Don't change your
no, no,
answer.
no, no, no.
I was
Burger and
just like, oh,
salad, chocolate for dessert.
that's perfect.
There you go. All right. What
Doesn't get
about
better than
you?
that.
What about you, world? What is
Okay.
your go-to comfort food?
I would do a fusion of sort, right? Like if we think about two sort of different cultures of food coming together on a plate, I think that would be pretty remarkable. I love most food, to be honest. I'm like you, Peter. Like I cook a lot. I don't cook as much as you do, I think. But I love food. I love to eat, and I love to eat food that I normally wouldn't prepare at home. And a lot of that is like maybe Asian inspired foods.
Mm-hmm.
So an Indian type food, like I love that. So I would probably do a fusion of like Indian and Thai.
Ooh.
That would probably be my go-to comfort food is a fusion of those two. Like I love pad thai. I love curries. I love it all. So anything that blends those two together would make me really, really happy.
Right. And then you always finish, since it's a fusion of, of Thai and Indian, gulab jamun for dessert as well would be fantastic. Right. So, all
Yes.
right, now I'm getting hungry. Oh,
I know I'm getting hungry. My mouth is watering. I want a burger. I want chocolate. I want some pad thai.
Pad
I want
thai.
some butter chicken. Like, let's do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
That was good. I like that. I as soon as you said fusion, I was like, yeah, because then I was thinking of the experience that I had not that long ago had an Egyptian French restaurant.
Oh,
Was the fusion of the two, and same, right? A lot of lentil based stuff, but again, with either butters and cream sauces or a fair amount of fish, and just you get those unique experiences that blend stuff. And now we're almost talking about the concept of both cards, right? Anyway.
yeah, that's true. That could work for temperance or
Work
the
for temperance
world,
as well.
really.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. I guess I ask you, correct? We're kind of going
Sure.
back and forth as to who asked first. Okay. So, the world, do you collect anything or have any unusual interests?
Okay, I'm going to go old school here.
Yeah.
And since I'm going on a cruise, a worldwide cruise, do you remember when you were a kid, maybe your mom or like other people that you knew, did they collect spoons from
My
different?
mom had a spoon rack where she collected spoons, little glass door on it, like 3 or 4 different rows. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, as a kid, if we go on school trips, we'd go to Quebec City, Ottawa, I'd bring mom a spoon. That was what I would do.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I'm going to go old school and I'm going to collect those little silver spoons that have, it's like the spoon, but then on the top, it has the souvenir of wherever it is that you visited. So I'm collecting spoons.
Interesting. I thought you were going to go with stamps, because I would have thought the world, that would have been another possibility for the world to collect as well, would be to collect stamps, because they're kind of a mark of, almost the political lines that we establish in the world. And when you collect some of the old ones as well, they're from, regimes that don't exist anymore, and almost a little history of the world itself. But I love the spoons. That's really original. That the stamps kind of came to me, but spoons.
No, but the stamps is obvious, and I didn't think obvious. Like, I love that. And then along the lines of the stamps too, it could be money, right? Like my husband travels so much with work, and he has all different coins and bills from these different countries that he goes to, and it's fascinating to look at that. So I think, that's
we do the same,
awesome.
and we actually place them in an offering as on a Jupiter altar. So we actually kind of a sign of abundance. So when we come back with currency from someplace else, then that's what we do as well.
Oh, Peter, thank you. What a great idea, because his money sits in like a drawer somewhere. I'm going to create an offering.
We do.
Yes. What a great idea.
That's
Thank
where
you.
I have the big print that I have from the wheel from Joanna Powell Colbert's deck. I got a print, and that it sits on the altar, since it's a Jupiter, the card associated with Jupiter. And then we have a bowl with some bills and some coins, and that's literally what we do. Just a small offering. I think we actually at one point in time had a little sort of prayer based on the Orphic poems. I think we got through Sphere and Sundry and through Austin Coppock that we would read. But now sometimes it's just we just sort of offer. We place that offering there. So the world could do that as well. The world card might also, if she's collecting spoons, although who would the world really place an offering to, right? I mean, it's Gaia, it's like basically
Yeah, she's all, yeah, that's
goddess of
true.
everything.
The goddess of everything, exactly. Yeah, I love that. I'm totally see, not just tarot here, folks. We're talking offerings, we're
Everything.
talking altars. Okay,
But
I love it.
but so and just to always the educator, right? And as we're talking to try and get people to become more comfortable with the tarot, when you think about the idea of even, just I had mentioned we have the representation of a tarot card on the altar as well, right? The card of the wheel is there, which is a card that is associated to Jupiter, and then kind of the deity linked to Jupiter as well. And then to kind of go around where it first came out of was the idea of the world collecting spoons, and then we talk about stamps, and then you talk about currency, and we made those sort of connections to something that the world card, as its completion, as it's sort of building a picture, a complete picture of the world itself being that big blue marble that we live on. We gave 3 examples, and hopefully one of them will stick, or that you'll think of your own, and then it will help you sort of interpret that card moving forward. So, all right, off my educational soapbox now.
Okay, Temperance, do you have anything that you would collect or have an unusual interest?
Okay, so I thought of this in 2 different ways. I thought I would do the easy cop-out answer and kind of go, with the card itself and think, well, if I'm Temperance and I am mixing things, then I am collecting mixing bowls and chalices, that I have a collection of mixing bowls and chalices. But then I also thought about the idea, it would be harder to collect, but I thought, I wonder if Temperance looks for, medieval alchemical tools as well, and has a really strange collection. Then I thought, when we were talking about the idea of providing moderation and balance, that Temperance could also collect spices, that because they add just a little bit of flavor. They shift the balance of flavors inside of food. Sometimes something extremely bland with just a pinch of salt, then flavors come out. Adding something like, cardamom or coriander, or curry or paprika changes the makeup of food. It literally creates an alchemical, or I guess a chemical transformation. And again, that concept of transformation, if we look at, sort of the death card as ending, transformation being the next card, being the card of Temperance, that transforming energy sits inside Temperance's wheelhouse. So I gave you 3 of them, the cop-out answer, but I don't know. I think spices might then be, as I'm spices might be where I'm going to go with Temperance. I think she would be a collector of great spices.
I love what you said. I don't think it's a cop-out at all. So a funny story is, back in the day, I used to do a lot of baking. So I had my own cake decorating company, and I made wedding cakes and special occasion cakes. And I had a ton of mixing bowls, and I loved mixing bowls.
Right.
And I remember my grandmother, who's no longer with us, many years ago, she wanted to buy me something. She was visiting us because she didn't live in the area, and she was staying with us. And she said to my mom, "I want to buy Bonnie something." And my mom was like, "Oh, like you can buy her this silver mixing, like you see at restaurants, those silver mixing bowls." And my grandmother's like, "Really? Like she would want that?" And my mom's like, "Oh yeah, she would love that." So I have a ton of mixing bowls.
There you go.
I think that's a great idea. And I use those bowls to temper chocolate or melting chocolate. So it all comes together. And spices, I love that. The world could also, I'm like, oh my God, that would be another great thing that the world could collect is spices from all over the world. So there's a lot of alignment, I think, with the world and Temperance in terms of what they could collect. And I love that.
And they would have that esoteric alignment as well. And I'm thinking it would be through the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, would have probably been through Mary Greer's work. I would have discovered it. But there is that division of kind of 1 to 7, 8 to 14, 15 to 21. card
Mhm.
14 being temperance, card 21 being the world. So there is definitely connection between those two. So it's kind of neat that you're right. Cause I thought when I said spices, I thought, oh, I hope I didn't just steal Bonnie's answer. But
No, I think that's because you can either use a little bit of spice or you can use a
use a
lot.
lot,
I
right?
tend to be on the a lot side because I love things really, really hot, but my family doesn't. So I have to use moderation.
Yeah.
And for them, it's a little bit of spice, but then on mine, it gets.
But even and for me, I know because I do a fair amount of the cooking, but even thinking of things like and spices, I kind of put herbs and spices sort of
Right.
together. But even something cooling like a mint, putting
Mm.
mint in something really does change the flavor when you add mint to a salad or you add it to a meat
Oh,
dish,
for sure.
or add it even to a stir fry. It's very different, or
Or
something
to
like
a
that.
mojito,
Right. Or exactly a little bit of, model their, crushed mint in a mojito for sure.
I
Right.
just planted some mojitos. So
You
I was
planted
like,
mojito?
oh, sorry, I just planted
I
mint.
love that.
Oh my
Can
goodness.
you
Okay.
tell us, please, what it is exactly the process you have to go through to plant a mojito? Because that would be lovely. I'd love to
That
just
would be lovely. Every time I go, it's just ready for me.
pop into my yard and take a mojito from the mojito tree.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, can you imagine? Oh, that would be lovely.
So those of you listening, we are really digressing here, but you're
Yes, we
hearing all
are.
those connections. So you haven't answered this question yet. Do you have anything that you? Sorry, do you collect anything or have any unusual interests? Did you?
I did with the
Oh, you did
spoons,
spoons.
remember?
That's right, with the spoons. All right. So we're
Spoons
the
and then
next question.
stamps
All
and
right.
then money.
Yeah. All right.
We're good. Okay.
Okay. So, what's your favorite way to unwind after a long day? Well,
Okay. So when I think about the world card, it's really a time for celebration.
mhm.
And it's a time that because we've been on this long journey and oftentimes when something ends, we don't really take an opportunity to be like, let's celebrate this ending, right? Or like it's almost like let's check the box and then we're on to the next thing. So I would say the world card after a long day is going to do some type of celebration. She could have a mojito. She could have a virgin mojito if she's not into alcohol. She could do a little dance party or really you're not going to do this every single day, like throw a big party, but it's like, what is it that you can do at the end of the day to really celebrate your success? So she's going to be really proud of her accomplishments and take time to to appreciate where she is. It can even be that you're not at the complete end of the journey. It's coming to an end and you can still be grateful and happy for where it is that you are. So she's going to celebrate at the end of the day with a drink that she loves and maybe a little happy dance, and she'll throw a party every now and then to be really to anchor that celebration in.
I love that. Yeah, of course. Right. It's right. I want to teach the world to sing. We're gonna, have a party.
Have a
Awesome.
party.
Awesome.
Exactly.
All right.
How would Temperance unwind after a long day?
So I think temperance is going to look to restore balance. So temperance is going to use some kind of self-regulation technique. So she's going to finish off her day by doing 4 square breathing or lazy 8 breathing. Or she's going to do a healthy balance meditation, might be a body check, kind of a head to toe body check. But, the thing I guess with temperance is after a day, she wants to restore her own internal sense of balance. So she will do whatever it is that she needs to do to restore that. So, like I said, that whether it's a breathing exercise, whether it's a meditation exercise, it might be just sitting in stillness, could be listening to quiet music, but something to reestablish her baseline of regulation so that on her next day, she's starting it out with full balance. That's what temperance is doing.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's my happy place.
There you go. There you go. All right. Next question.
Next question. What's a song or artist you've been listening to lately?
Oh, boy. And you would think that this would be at the tip of my tongue for temperance.
That's a tough one.
It is a hard one, right? It is a hard one. And I'm sure, once we're done, a flood of examples are going to come to me. But at this point in time, I gotta say, I am drawing blank. So I guess I'm thinking of music. So, well, we're all right. Then if we're talking about, it would probably be some kind of of yeah, probably progressive rock of some kind, because it really does,
A ballad, or maybe.
well, it
Or
it 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 is the mixing of things together. Like, prog rock would be a
mm,
style of music that would mix, the, I guess, musicianship of jazz or even classical music, thinking of a Keith Emerson, or a Jordan Rudess, or Rick Wakeman, who would be very classically styled, but synth or rock synth players blended with some pretty heavy, rock music, but then also, often really complex chord structures. So it does have that mix, or that blend of music. Another one would be, I think of kind of, old school hip hop that would be drawing samples from musics of other genres, but then, completely changing it around and making it its own art form. So in some ways, making an alchemical transformation of the original music into something new. And many would say, into something, into something new, and something that opens new pathways to other kinds of music. So there you go. There's two kind of came off the top of my head. Not the best answers, but
no, they're pretty insightful, Peter.
doing that idea of the alchemical blend. So thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to just sort of think out loud.
Well, that's what we have to do, right? And this is
Totally.
another great
Yeah.
example of when we're
Yeah.
pulling cards,
Yeah.
it may not come to you right
Right away.
away, but it's having grace and having patience and
Mhm.
being like, okay, let me take a minute to think about this
Cool.
and kind of process what's coming in. Because in the silence, that's, excuse me, that's where clarity comes, right? So sometimes we just need to take a minute and be like, and then it comes through rather than trying to overthink the answer. So,
Yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you. That's great summary. So then I'll ask you, what's a song or artist that you've been listening to lately, world?
I have two. And I'm going totally literal on this. We Are the World. Remember that song?
Yes.
That was a compilation of
It
like
was.
many different artists,
It was.
and that's like we're going back to the 80s.
Quincy
But
Jones, Michael Jackson, and Lionel Richie, I think, wrote it, but yeah. The primary
right, and there was
person,
like many different artists that came
goodness, yeah.
together to sing, and that had such an impact over the entire world, right? That was meant to really bring awareness at the time. So I love that because it was many people coming together to create this song, again, to bring awareness and just to bring people together. But the other one I was thinking is like Celebrate. Is that Casey and the Sunshine Band? Celebrate good times.
Cool in the
come on.
Gang.
Cool in the Gang.
Cool in the
Sorry.
Gang.
Okay. This is
Yeah.
why you're
Celebration
here.
by Cool in the Gang. Yeah.
Sorry, Celebration by Cool in the Gang. Okay. Right? Because again,
Totally.
the world, we need to
agree.
celebrate. We need to
agree.
celebrate our success, where we are on our journey. And that's just a really happy, like, you hear that song and you're like, so I'm going two songs. So thank you for the correction.
No, and with We Are the World, it was interesting because it was kind of the American sort of version of, the fundraising song that linked to world famine. But then it also spawned other nations to do the same thing. I remember, the Northern Lights. We are Tears Are Not Enough. The UK had, Do They Know It's Christmas? Although I think that one might have been the one that came first.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, all of these ideas that then spawned responses around the world, right? So in some ways, it's a song. It's the idea of a song that dozens of nations release their own versions of. So, well, what a connection to the world. All right, and I guess now we go to the sort of more, I guess, tarot guidance questions that we would ask. Now that we've warmed them up, We've had dinner. Whether maybe we went to our comfort foods, who knows? We had some kind of fusion, and then we had burgers and salads with chocolate for dessert. I don't know what kind of restaurant we would have gone to have all those options, but that's what we had. We're now going to ask questions that are perhaps a little bit more insightful. Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
I can ask you if you
Sure.
want.
Okay.
Okay. So Temperance, what pattern do I keep repeating? And why might that be?
So
whatever insight you have.
If I was looking at this and talking about patterns that you were repeating, it might be, if you're temperance, you might be repeating the pattern of looking for too much balance in things, in recognizing that there are times when the world is not completely in sync, that life is not completely in sync. That's the one thing that I can think of, and why would go to the core of the Temperance card. It would be that Temperance wants to seek balance and likes seeking moderation in things, or looks to create that transformation from either the known to the unknown, or the unknown to the known, wanting to make things better. And the world doesn't always work that way, that there are times when things do fall out of balance. So Temperance is there to remind us that although it's not bad to want to seek balance in things, that the world doesn't necessarily operate in that sort of 50-50 good, bad, yin yang kind of balance. There are times when the scales are tipped in favor of one side or the other, and that seeking balance is a pattern that at times can do us a disservice. So the guidance, I guess, of the Temperance in this case would be okay with things being out of sync. Do what you can, do what you can to try and restore balance, but recognize that can be something that takes time, and recognize as well that there are times when life / the world / day-to-day stuff is out of sync, and that's okay.
I love that, Peter, and definitely a a message that I need to hear. I actually have the Temperance card sitting just behind me. I always keep it out because I do see life in a lot of like all or nothing. So I love that that messaging, and that really resonates for me. So thank you.
Now that you mentioned, I can literally see it. It's the Golden Art Nouveau tarot. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She sits with me every day, reminding me moderation, Bonnie.
Right. It's not actually very different from the style of the Luna edition. You can see, right, the gold hues in yours, the silver ones in these. So,
yep.
Okay. Okay. I ask you the same question to the world. What patterns do I keep repeating, and why?
Okay, Peter. I'm going to say what patterns you keep repeating are maybe starting new things all the time and not seeing them through to completion.
Are you sitting in my space right now, Temperance?
Does that resonate?
Yes.
Yeah. So it would be like, a lot of times we're sort of, and I'm not saying that you do this, but just in general, we're always sort of chasing the next shiny object. And then we don't sort of see that through to completion, either because we're bored of doing that, or it's like, oh my God, that's going to be way too much work, or we just take on so much that we don't have time to finish those things. So the world really is about going on a journey from start to finish and then starting again. So what are some things, and you don't have to answer that, this is just more, thought provoking, but what are some things that you have on your plate right now that you can sort of allow to let go of? Because then the other things that are more of a priority for you, you can spend the time going through that cycle and then seeing that through.
I love that. Thank you. It's good advice. It's very timely advice as well. So I'm going to definitely internalize that. Can I ask you another question?
Yes.
What is blocking or challenging me right now?
Yeah, I think it's that idea of when we're in the middle of something, when the end looks too big, we give up. So it's kind of like baby steps to get you through to the next step. So if you are in the middle of something and it seems like, oh, like I can't see the end goal, or like I have the end goal in mind, but it's just too big. How can you just take the next step? Like thinking about that, this is what is in alignment for you. So if this is something that you are wanting to do, look at it as the next step and then celebrate those little wins along the way, as opposed to waiting until the end to be like, hey, look, I did a good job, right? We don't always have to wait till we get to the finish line to give ourselves a pep talk to be like, you're doing great, keep going.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. That's great. No, again, I'm, I'm taking in all of the advice. So I really do appreciate that. The
You're welcome.
guidance that the cards gives. And once you feed them and you ask them simple questions, and they can really start to provide some guidance.
They can. Temperance, what is blocking or challenging me right now?
So I would probably go to the astrological connection with this card. And in some ways it's related to what we talked a little bit about before. So this is the card of Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. So there's real grandiosity to this card.
Mm.
So within the previous question was the idea of recognizing that, not life isn't always in balance necessarily, and it's being okay with that. The Temperance also says, what's blocking you is not everything is big and grand. That there are times as
Mm.
well when life comprises of little, small, tiny things that can be equally important. So sometimes it centers around perhaps the tasks or the work that we do. That we expect everything to have this big, giant impact or this big, massive importance, and the reality is that some things are minute in detail or have very little importance in the grand scheme of things, but that doesn't change their significance to us individually. So, if we looked about the idea of blocking or challenging, it's the concept that not everything needs to sit inside that big Jupiterian purpose, that big example of grandiosity, that sometimes things can, sometimes meaning can come from very small things. Does that make sense?
100%. And that I am receiving these messages. They really are meant, they're like touching my soul right now. And that's so true. We put so much emphasis on the big things, and sometimes it's like those little things matter too, right? And that is such a great reminder. So
Yeah.
thank you, Peter.
Of course. And sometimes we think everything should be a big thing. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily the case, right? That everything that we do doesn't have to have a massive impact on the world, on the people in our lives, or even on ourselves. Sometimes it's intended to have a very fleeting impact, and that's okay. And I think that's what the Temperance card is saying to this particular question around what's blocking or challenging.
I love that. So, Temperance, what would support me to move forward?
Well, I think Temperance, this one is easy, right? I think that the message that Temperance would talk about is the idea of trying to seek personal balance in all things. So when the world itself is not in balance, when we expect super important things and we sometimes miss the importance of the minutia, Temperance is there to remind us that even though the world may be out of sync or out of balance, that we don't have to be. So it's ensuring that we are doing everything. The Temperance is saying we should be doing everything we can to ensure balance within self. So whatever that happens to be, if it's a balance of time with people and time alone, if it's a balance of time inside and time outside, if it's a balance between productive time, like kind of work time and play time, all of those kinds of, if it's a balance between, celebration and solidarity and solitude, Temperance is saying the best way for us to be able to counter the fact that we expect the world to be in balance and it isn't, is to try and keep ourselves in balance as much as possible. That's Temperance's lesson for us to be able to support you in moving forward. Does that resonate with you? Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure, because I want to live out here in the ethers. I just want to float around, but I need to be like in my body and having this experience here on earth, right? So that's for me where it's like, no, I just want to do all this stuff. But the body stuff, not so much. So it definitely resonates with me. And yeah, I need to hear that message right now. So thank you, Temperance.
Oh, you're very welcome. I have the same question for you, the World card. What will support me to move forward?
Okay. I love this. So I'm gonna give you two pieces of advice. One is I'm gonna ask you to think about your last big accomplishment or achievement, something that you did and you're really proud of yourself, and taking some time to be like, oh my God, I did that thing. And I'm really proud of myself, right? And not proud because you finished it or like it's trying to prove some type of worth, but it's like when you recognize that something came from that, that has real power. So thinking about an accomplishment that maybe you didn't take the time to celebrate. And then the next thing too is to see, where are you on this journey, right? You like, if we think about the world, it's like you have the world in your hands. Everything is possible. And again, when we think about that outcome and it looks too big, well, what are those small steps that we can take to help us head in the direction that we want to go in? You can change course at any point on a journey. It doesn't have to follow the trajectory that you think it has to follow. So thinking about like, I have the world in my hands. What am I going to do with this? And then how is this going to help me on this journey that I'm on, no matter where I am on it? And to continue to remind yourself that every step leads to the next step, and to celebrate that. We don't have to wait until the end to be like, I did it. I crossed the finish line, right? That's so short-lived. It's like we do the thing and it's like, okay, what's next? So really taking time to celebrate yourself, celebrate your family, things that you're doing, and just having joy in celebration.
Okay. It's funny because as you were talking through the World card, it reminded me of a couple of cards. Like I saw pieces of the Two of Wands in there. I saw the victory of the Six of Wands as well, where taking time to celebrate at whatever point you're at. The kind of good things that emerge from that. And then the first one was taking some time to celebrate a recent accomplishment as well. So thank you again. Pieces for me to reflect on personally. Again, for those of you who were listening to those questions, and if they resonated with you, hopefully they give you things to be able to focus on as well. So there you go. Our dinner is coming almost to an end. Our time with Temperance and our time with the world. All right.
I know it's kind of sad. I get so excited when I'm going out for dinner and then I'm eating my meal and I'm like, oh, it's almost over.
Right. Yeah. This was an interesting one. I actually, I'd be curious to know, and maybe because the last one was our first dinner, to me, again, being, vulnerable and open, I felt awkward at times, whereas this one felt much more comfortable. And I wonder whether or not the pairing of guests between the World and Temperance, as opposed to the Hanged Woman and the Chariot, that might make an interesting or an odder pair. Temperance and the World seem to get along quite well around the table. The conversation seemed to flow much more naturally. So. Well, hopefully people will let us know what they think. If you have other questions that you thought of, or responses to either the casual questions or the inside questions, we would love to know what you think in the comments below. Before we sign off, though, Bonnie, could you let people know what have you got going on in the next little bit?
What have I got going on in the next little bit? That's a good question.
Well, you've got the workshops coming up.
I just did a workshop last night, actually. I do have to update my website with some new dates for workshops, but I will definitely have some new dates for that. I have a mentorship program that people can sign up for. If you're interested in using the tarot and developing your own language through the tarot, I have a program that I'm leading students through. So that's on my website. So yeah, I don't have any actual workshops listed right now, but they're coming soon. And the best way to find out about those is through being on my newsletter. So whenever I have any upcoming events, I'll always let you know through email, not so much through social media. So if you want to find out a little bit about me and the services that I offer, you can actually go to our website. So it's tarotwithbonnieandpeter.com. You can find out a little bit more about me and Peter, and then from there you can head over to my website and see what I'm doing, what I have going on, and what I have to offer. So it's a little bit about me. How about you, Peter? Where can people find you? What do you have going on?
Well, same, tarotwithbonnieandpeter.com or peterwhitetarot.com, for my site. One will lead you to my site and one will take you directly there. The biggie for me right now is the cards of the zodiac, with the first kind of iteration being the cards of Cancer coming up in, around a week. I've been excited working on this program in the background. So it's all about every card that is associated with the sign of Cancer. So the idea is that it is a trip through all 78 cards, but instead of focusing on the structure of the tarot deck, focusing on the astrological timing. And then, I'm looking as well at different, I'll call them powerful aspects, or, powerful connections between the cards that are in the tarot and the period of time in the zodiac. So if that's of interest to you, if combining those two modalities, tarot and astrology, are of interest, then I would head over either through our website or through mine and take a look at my Cards of the Zodiac webinar series starting on June the 7th. So that's the biggie that I've got going on right now.
Sounds awesome, Peter.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what I will say as well is, thank you to those of you who have joined us for our dinner with the Majors. Tonight's dinner guests were Temperance and the World. Please, as we've mentioned before, let us know in the comments wherever you happen to be watching or listening. Ask us your questions, but perhaps even more importantly, share, interact, which helps our podcast grow. It also brings the message of accessibility of the tarot to other people. Through your help, it gets Tarot with Bonnie and Peter out in front of people who may enjoy it but have yet to see it. So, we thank you in advance for sharing that with people. We thank you for taking the time for joining us today. And with that, we look forward to seeing you next time on Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Bye for now.